Welcome to Strip Coverlet, where we squeeze the bigger picture of literature. I'm Adrian Ford, and we are here for another poetry discussion, but this is a poetry discussion that is coming to us off schedule. We are here for what I'm going to be calling the 9 days of Halloween. The 9 days leading up to Halloween, we will have a discussion over a horror type piece every day here on Strip Coverlet, so make sure you are subscribed in order that YouTube will continue to suggest these types of videos to you. And if you decide to help me out here on the channel, the like button really does that. But look, 9 days of Halloween. Why 9 days? Well, we can go into numerology and talk about the properties that the number 9 has. We can talk about how the human psyche is particularly prone to enjoying even numbers. So something haunting you, like the number 9, would come in pretty much in line with what one would hope for Halloween. Or maybe I just came up with this idea last night at work and decided to give it a go. But, you know, who's to say? Make your own decision. Make the decision for yourself how you decide to think about the 9 days of Halloween here. Now, every day leading up to Halloween, we will have a discussion over some type of horror story here on the channel, but I want to preface that Mondays, so the 24th, and Wednesdays, the 26th, meaning Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and Monday, Halloween itself, we will be doing chapters 12, 13, and 14 of Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I have a read-along going on the channel for Fairy Tale by Stephen King, and we just finished chapter 11. And we will also have the Telltale Heart and an opening paragraph video for Mask of the Red Death. This is a video for the Conqueror Worm. What else we're going to get into, I'm not sure yet, because maybe I am letting the spirits of Halloween guide me, or maybe I just haven't made my mind up because I decided to do this last night at work. Make the decision for yourself. Whatever you believe it. Hey man, I'm not going to talk you out of it. But we have a poetry discussion for The Conqueror Worm, so let's get into it with a reading of the poem The Conqueror Worm by Edgar Allan Poe. Lo, 'tis a gala night. Within the lonesome latter years, an angel throng bewinged, bedight in veils and drowned in tears, sit in a theater to see a play of hopes and fears, while the orchestra breathes fitfully the music of the spheres. Mimes in the form of God on high mutter and mumble low, and hither and thither fly, mere puppets they who come and go, at bidding of vast formless things that shift the scenery to and fro, flapping from out their condor wings, invisible woe. That motley drama, oh, be sure it shall not be forgot, with its phantom chased for evermore by a crowd that sees it not, through a circle that ever returneth into the selfsame spot, and much of madness and more of sin and horror the soul of the plot. But see, amid the mimic rout, a crawling shape intrude, a blood-red thing that writhes from out the scenic solitude. It writhes, with mortal pangs, and the angels sob at vermin fangs, in human gore imbued. Out are the lights, out all, and over each quivering form the curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of a storm, and the angels, all pallid and wan, uprising, unveiling, affirm that the play is a tragedy, man, and its hero, the Conqueror Worm. So what are we getting here? What is happening in this play? We are seeing angels watching a play take shape on stage with mimes in the form of God on high. Mutter and mumble, and hither and thither fly, mere puppets they, who come and go at bidding of vast formless things. So we're watching a play. We're watching the angels watching a play, which is a specific vantage point in itself. And all of the dancing and all of the drama and all of the action, it is for naught. As at the end, the hero of the play is the all-consuming Conqueror Worm. Now I want to begin this discussion, the discussion portion of this video, with that metaphor. The metaphor of life as a play. Life as a performance. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because oftentimes in many forms of religion, what you have is the mortals putting on the play of life for God. Mimes in the form of God on high mutter and mumble low. The gods here, the God on high, the mimes representing the God on high, are in the play here. This could be a reference to heavy-handed fate, the heavy-handed idea of fate, or the idea of heavy-handed fate, however you want to verse those things. Still, with the angels as audience, we are looking at what are often assumed to be the innocence, the purity, the pure angels watching this drama of mortal life. Are there, even so, from a religious sense, okay, that it's very easy to understand that. It's very easy to get that idea and say, okay, that makes sense from the religious standpoint. But even from an atheistic standpoint, that idea holds water. From the atheistic standpoint, oftentimes tied to what is assumed to be a nihilistic standpoint. I don't agree with that. I think there are differences between strains of nihilism, depending on what you want to talk about there. But there's also a difference between assuming nihilism into atheism. Regardless, at the end of the day, at the end of the play, nothing that happened really matters, does it? So from either an atheistic or a theistic standpoint, the metaphor of life as a play, life as a performance, life as performative, it all holds water. And it's not a new idea. In fact, Poe may even be directly referencing Shakespeare. I've got it pulled up here. Give me a moment. A little more light there, huh? This comes to us from As You Like It, I believe, right? This is Shakespeare. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his acts being 7 ages. At first the infant, mewling and puking in the nurse's arms. Then the whining schoolboy with his satchel and shining morning face, creeping like snail unwillingly to school. And then the lover, sighing like furnace, with a woeful ballad made to his mistress's eyebrow. Then a soldier, full of strange oaths and bearded like the pard, jealous in honor, sudden and quick in quarrel, seeking the bubble reputation, even the cannon's mouth, and then the justice, in fair round belly, with a good capon lined, with eyes severe and beard of formal cut, full of wise saws and modern instances, and so he plays his part. The sixth age shifts into the lean and slippered pantaloon, with spectacles on the nose and pouch on side, his youthful hose well saved, a world too wide for his shrunk shank, and his big manly voice turning again toward childish treble, pipes and whistles in his sound. Last scene of all that ends this strange eventful history is second childishness and mere oblivion, sans teeth, sans eye, sans taste, sans everything. It's a little bit of a different quote than what is often portrayed. What is often portrayed, all the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts. That's the common part you get. That's what always makes the rounds. That's what's in the Civilization games, for example. But that's not the whole quote. The whole quote has a little bit downside to it, just like Poe's poem, The Conqueror Worm, has the downside involved. Has the downside as the better part of the quote, I would say. The meatiest part there, the last two acts, which leads me to my final question about this poem, my final point in the poetry discussion here for The Conqueror Worm by Poe. We get it here. Let me see where I should start this. Out are the lights, out all, and over each quivering form, the curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of a storm, and the angels, all pallid and wan, uprising, unveiling, affirm that the play is a tragedy, man, and its hero, the Conqueror Worm. But that's weird, isn't it? Something doesn't taste right there. A tragedy. Is this poem a tragedy? I don't know. I don't think so. If you go to dictionary.com and you enter the term tragic hero, as we're told, the hero is the Conqueror Worm here. A tragic hero is a great or virtuous character in a dramatic tragedy who is destined for downfall, suffering, or defeat. But the Conqueror Worm does not suffer downfall, suffering, or defeat. The Conqueror Worm here is the one who is triumphant. This isn't a tragedy. Oftentimes, it is the main character, it is the tragic hero whose tragedy is foremost in the piece. This is named not after man. The poem is named The Conqueror Worm. The poem doesn't end with man. The poem ends with the Conqueror Worm. Oftentimes in literature, a shortcut to figuring out to whom the piece belongs. Like, whose lesson are we trying to learn here? Whose story are we supposed to identify? It's a shortcut to say, where does the story begin and where does the story end? Here, the story begins with the lonesome latter years, an angel throng bewinged bedight. But that's all we really get from them. And very rare is the case that we're asked to identify with angels. In fact, the most compelling angel for whom we get a story or a plot or a development might be Lucifer. You don't really expect to open a book and identify yourself with Lucifer. Maybe you do. I don't know what. Maybe you're one of those. You go to one of those churches, right? I don't know. But Third Luciferian Tabernacle of Kansas City is the church I go to, and sometimes at the Third Luciferian Tabernacle of Kansas City, that's what we do. We identify with the Lucifer character. But I don't think it would be very, it's not very kosher that you are expected to identify with Lucifer, or therefore with angels, right? They're better than us. They are on high. So where does the story end here? The story ends here with the Conqueror Worm, doesn't it? Out are the lights, out all, and over each quivering form the curtain, a funeral pall, comes down with the rush of a storm, and the angels, all pallid and wan, uprising, unveiling, affirm that the play is a tragedy. Man and its hero, the Conqueror Worm. Now, I want to beg the question here. When you think of a worm, conqueror doesn't really come to mind, does it? Worms just kind of dumbly go about. Worms, split them in half, they'll go two separate ways. Not much coordination there. Seems kind of dumb, kind of bumbling, the worm. Just goes along eating whatever is in its path. So I want to read you something else. I want to read you what it means to be, as opposed to a tragic hero, a comedic hero. Less than competent protagonist who nevertheless succeeds. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I put this forth. The Conqueror Worm is not a tragedy about man. It is a comedy about the Conqueror Worm. That is all I have for this poetry discussion here on the channel. I will be back tomorrow again with chapter 12 of Fairy Tale by Stephen King. Then we will have, one second, The Telltale Heart, a short story discussion. Then we will have Fairy Tale chapter 12. Then we will have something else. I don't know yet. Maybe I don't. Maybe I have this planned, but I am just throwing this hullabaloo in there to confuse you so you're not at ease. Maybe. We're going to have opening paragraph from Mask of the Red Death. Then on Sunday we will have a something else. And then on Monday again we will have chapter 13. That was planned out. Chapter 13 of Fairy Tale by Stephen King. I hope to have you for all of these videos. And if you want to help me out here on the channel, it really does the trick if you decide to hit that like button. See you next time.